Hey everybody, Marcos Villegas here with Kathy Duva. We're in Los Angeles for this Ward versus Kovalev 2 press conference just capped off. Wow, it's been intense. I've been seeing clips and videos from the 2 days, New York and Oakland, and today. It's some intense stuff. Like, you could feel the tension.
Well, now that you can feel it between the fighters. Yeah. Last promotion, it was between the promoters. So you didn't see that much of it. You know, you should have been in some of our meetings. But yeah, no, this time it's about the fighters, and that's what it's supposed to be. That's great.
I would imagine because of how the fight ended and how fans are split 50-50, it leads to that.
Oh,
but
don't say 50-50.
Oh, it seems split. It's split between people.
I know that is not 50-50. No. Online polls were more in the 75-80% to 20% range. Let's tell the truth. But no, 50-50 here. No false equivalence.
You got his side and Sergey's side back and forth. And that's what I guess I'm trying to refer to is that it's
in that case.
It's pushing back and forth. But even if you're betting the night of the bets, it's still a really tough choice. It's still seen as 50-50 because if you place 100 on Andre or 100 on Sergey, you're still like, I'm not sure. So on that side, that's what I was referring to.
No, okay, I'll give you that. That's
You know, Kathy, it happened, so I'm sure you're happy about it. What was the difference this time around, given the first time, and with Andre thrown in that he might retire, having to deal with that, you being the promoter and making this fight happen?
Yeah, I didn't buy that for a minute, but Sergey said he's going to help him make up his mind next time, so maybe he will. But you know what? We waited for 3 months for them to talk to us, and then we negotiated.
It was literally like silent. You would reach out to them and nothing, no response.
I sent an email. Hey, so we're going to talk this week, and every now and then I might get yeah, we're going to talk to you soon, and that happened maybe twice, and it's frustrating to me because I want to work on the fight. I like to work. My staff likes to work. We sat around looking at each other for a couple of months. We got sick of it, you know, going to the office and going, oh, what are we going to do today? There's so much to do, and it wasn't getting done. I think, in retrospect, that was about Andre wanting to somehow call the shots, whatever. I don't know. Sergey was off traveling in Russia and China. He was having the time of his life. He had no idea what was going on back here and no concern. He leaves me to do my job. I leave him to do his. I don't want his job and he doesn't want mine, happily. But once we started talking, it took about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks to come to terms. And then we waited for weeks for Ward to sign the contract. Oh, wow. So we couldn't start working. We couldn't start working until he signed the contract. I wasn't about to go into something without having the assurance that he was on board, especially when he's out there talking about retirement. So we finished everything up about what, a week and a half. We got a week ago. We got a signed contract, and then it's, oh, we're going on a press tour next week, and oh, we're gonna do. And I'm like, okay, whatever. What they wanted, we have the same deal we made a year and a half ago. What they wanted,
you know, because that was the thing. The whole, it had people wondering, well, is Andre going to ask for more? They're going to change the deal completely differently. So you touch on that.
Well, he's going to get more from his promoter. Yeah. The splits are exactly what we bargained for a year and a half ago. Sergey had the lion's share last time. Ward has it this time, but we got the same split we bargained for a year and a half ago. The difference is how much money Jay-Z wants to take out of his pocket and give to Ward. That's between him and Roc Nation. Perhaps that might have been what was holding things up. Once we came to terms, I don't know what took 3 weeks, but whatever. They wanted creative control. They wanted to announce the fight when they wanted to. We were told we weren't allowed to talk about it until a period of time elapsed after he put out an Instagram post, whatever. So we're like, okay, fine, do whatever you want. Make the poster. Yeah.
Has that happened to you before with like other promoters, or this is all like a first?
Well, no, that's not fair. You know what? Back in the days of Richard Schaefer and Golden Boy, you were told to sit down, shut up, and show up for the fight. I have found that is not the best way to promote a fight. To contrast that, when we've worked with Top Rank, or when we've worked with Golden Boy more recently, under the current management, you know, when we worked with Don King years ago, when he was the worst person in the world to deal with. Sorry, Don. When the day came to start promoting the fight, everybody rolls up their sleeves and they sit down and they come up with good ideas because we're all in this together. When you're working on a percentage split, when you have a big fight, very hard to make a big fight if you're going to demand total control of everything. And so what promoters who are working in, how shall I put it, based on the economies of what money's actually available and not being propped up by money from some benefactor who wants to hand the A-side fighter or his fighter more money than he's actually going to make on the fight. You have to go out there and figure out a way to take this pot and make it bigger, because we're going to split it. And so I'm accustomed to that world. It's a very small business, and what we have to do as promoters traditionally is go to the bargaining table and beat each other up to get the best deal we can get for ourselves. At that moment, we make peace, and we go out and we work our asses off to sell the fight. And then the minute the bell rings, we're on opposite sides of that ring, or sometimes sitting next to each other, ready to tear each other's heads.
Yeah, that always cracked me up, because I remember seeing some more contentious fights, and with promoters got into it, and I see, and I'm like, dude, they're ringside, and I'm thinking, like, was that all show, or is it like super awkward? Do you not like talk to each other, or?
Not all shows. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it depends. Years ago, my husband used to be, in wars with Bob Arum and Don King, in the '90s when our company was, really one of the major forces of the sport. The stuff that used to go back and forth was mind-boggling. But when the day came, we walked into a press conference with Don King once, and we had T-shirts made with a caricature of Don saying patriotism is the last bastion of a scoundrel, Samuel Johnson quote. And we walked into the press conference wearing them, and my husband got up and said, Don, you're so literate, you remind me of Shakespeare. Was a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And Don would sit there and he'd get up and insult my husband. And yes, some of that was
tongue-in-cheek, but
it was kind of fun too. It's like the best humor. You kind of mean it. But he was a big boy, and he could dish it out as good as he could take it, and that's what you have to do. This business has changed a little. There are promoters that have come into it who just kind of don't get it. They're just not having the same
different sports and different culture and all that.
That I don't know that. I think it's a lot more mean-spirited than it used to be. I think there was tongue-in-cheek a little bit back then, but again, when the time came to sell the fight, we were all on the same team. When the fight ended, after that, the competition ends, now we got to all collect the money and split it up. So we got to be friends again. And it's a small business. We all have to keep working with each other over and over and over again. So you really have to know how to be collegial, even when you don't like each other. You have to know how to not cross that line where you can't be reasonable with each other. And when you negotiate and you go in there with this take no prisoners attitude, and I'm taking everything, and I've referenced some of our recent negotiations and negotiating with a suicide bomber. They get what they want, but you're not going to negotiate with them again. And it's not been like that this time. But but the point is, when you're in a small business and you have to keep dealing with the same people over and over, you kind of have to temper it a little bit. And that's what the world I come from, and it's what I'm used to. And other people come from a world where they are completely in control of everything. You have a young musician, and they don't have any say in anything, and you go in and you dictate the terms, and you tell. They come from a very different culture. So I understand it, and I'm not going to take it personally. But what can I say? What goes around comes around.
Certainly, it's been an interesting promotion, and I could talk to you for hours on end. I wanted to touch on something else also as well. I've been talking to a lot of people in boxing that have shared stories of Lou. My condolences first off, but what did Lou mean to boxing? And if you could share that part, and for the new fans coming in that don't know of the past and really that history and your role, the company's role, main events during that time with the heavyweights and with Purnell and all those guys.
Lou was like this to me from the time I met him, and I was 19 years old when I met him. He was like the Pied Piper of boxing. He would go and we would follow him anywhere. Being around him, particularly back then, was just more fun than I can describe. And my husband he told me when we were still dating, that if my father had someone who knew what he was doing business-wise, he could be so successful. But he was doing little club shows at the time. So Dan stepped in at one point and said, "Okay, I'm going to do the business. You just go out and be Lou Duva." And that worked. Lou became the face of our business. Dan wasn't the way Arum and King were. It was Lou. And Lou was very happy and comfortable in that role. As my daughter said, you know, Lou was the greatest guy on earth, and if you didn't know that, he'd tell you himself, you know, and that's true. But he did. He just, I don't know, he made it fun. And he made a lot of fans. We used to have a highlight film of him in which he was just going crazy in the corner. He did the Letterman show once, and we played Louie Louie as he came out and played this clip of him just going crazy, you know, fight after fight. And the passion, I've had a lot of people come up to me in recent weeks and they just say, you know, it was his passion that infected them. And me too, it's where I got it from. He and Dan both, but Lou, more than anyone else. He lived, breathed, ate, bled boxing. You know, he always said, it's my family in boxing, in that order. And sometimes it was in the other order, but he was, you know, I'm happy to realize that this man with an 8th grade education led an extraordinary life. He suffered a lot of horrible pain, as most people who live long lives do. He had some amazing moments. You know, a life well lived is really something to celebrate. And so he had a heart attack in his mid-50s. We didn't think he was going to make it to 60. He told me one day, I made this deal with God that if I could live through this and just make it to 60, I'll be fine, you know. And then when he was 60, he said, oh shit, I made the wrong deal. And but I guess God was listening. He got to have a very long, extraordinary life. So it was one of those, you know, funerals are sad always, but what we did was we went back and we lived 30, 40 years ago, and that's where our heads all went to, and it was nice. They played My Way as they were taking his coffin out of the church, and I just thought, well, yeah, his daughter set that up, and that was really appropriate. He was one of a kind, and there'll never be another one like him.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Here with Kathy Duva, Marcos Villegas, Fight Up TV.